Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna, and today we are going to be talking about The Way of Edan by Philip Chase, book 1 in the Edan trilogy. And so this is a very special occasion because we love Philip Chase, and I'm already getting some funny looks for that.
Alan's face.
Well, I love Philip Chase, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited to be talking about his book and to be joined here with Philip Chase. So we have Philip Chase. Thank you so much, Philip, for joining us to celebrate your debut here.
Mine doesn't even have a cover. My ebook doesn't even have a cover.
Oh, Alan.
I'm trying. Everyone else showed the cover. This is my first page. Praise for Way of Edan.
Mine didn't have a cover either, Alan. Philip sent me the image of the cover, and so I put it
I sent
on
you that.
display.
I know, but it's not on my camera. So anyway,
look at my copy. Look
take
at
my
it,
word.
Alan.
Take my word for it that
doesn't it?
It's the Way of Edan.
It's a really beautiful cover. It is a gorgeous cover. So I guess we kind of jumped over introductions, but you know, the person with the beard and the glasses is Philip Chase.
That's me.
I think you're the only one that has both of those descriptors. And then to my right, I guess, is Merphy Napier. So Merphy, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this book.
Thanks for having me, or thanks for letting me in. I kind of invited myself.
But I'm so excited to have you. I'm so thrilled. So thank you for joining us. And Jimmy from the Fantasy Network, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me. Howdy.
Awesome. And we have the narrator here with us, Alan from the Library of Alexandria, who will be narrating the trilogy. How are you doing,
you were
Alan?
skipping me. I'm like, what is this like?
No.
Random introductions. Like I'm right next to you.
I saved you for last because actually my first question is for Alan.
No, you saved me for last because I have the least amount of subs. I know that's why.
I have the least amount of subs. But
that's why.
But I did have a question specifically for Alan before we begin, and that is, will you be singing the song parts?
They're not songs. They're not songs the way we think of them, right, Philip? Like
say their songs. Say their standard songs.
Yeah,
I'll sing them.
To be sung?
Actually, to the tune of a boy band, I believe, is what we discussed, right?
Yes, I'm singing one to the tune of what is it? Oh my gosh, it was stuck like freaking. I was stuck on this NSYNC song for like a month, and now I can't remember it. It's gonna be me. It's gonna be me. That's one of them. Is It's Gonna Be Me. True story. And the other one is set to Journey's Don't Stop Believing.
All
Nice.
right.
No,
but I cannot wait.
That audiobook.
He is correct. They are sort of like chants, I guess, in a way. Yeah, like a bard with a harp and a chant sort of thing. He's going to read it like Old English poetry.
Are you going to play a harp?
Yes, because that is one of my many talents.
Good.
Well, I mean, you could sing it kind of monotone, make it Gregorian, like maybe, who knows?
all these music people in here, and I'm just like, just right over.
Look,
I'm not a music person.
When I was in high school and we had the CD of Encyclopedia Britannica, we were obsessed with Gregorian monk chants.
You have the drone.
Those are Tibetan monks, Alan.
You do have some Gregorian chants with the drone feature.
Sorry, he's right. They were Buddhist monks.
Yeah,
but you have that too.
I'm sad that Philip calls me out on my.
I love it. I love throat singing. Yay! So, I think the first thing I want to go ahead and ask, and I'm sorry, Philip, I'm just skipping over you. You're just the author, so you're not that important. You're dead,
Why
right?
is Philip even here?
I'm dead. Yeah, I'm like a ghost here.
Yeah. But I did want to hear. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say I love that Alan confused Gregorian chants with Tibetan Buddhist monks throat singing, because actually you do have like sort of medieval Christian influence in here along with Buddhist influence. I keep describing this Beowulf meets Buddhism. So Alan, nice segue. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And that was intentional.
I did title my review Elves and Buddhism because that was a really interesting feature about this book. I know a lot of people are talking about how it's Tolkien inspired, but there is some non-duality. There are some Buddhist things going on, but general impressions about the book. So Merphy, I have not heard your thoughts yet on the book. You
Yeah,
finished
I
it last
mean-
night, right?
Watch this hit piece
This
right
morning.
now.
Oh, okay. I can do a hit piece. I'm super good at those now. No, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was great. I love my classic fantasies and Tolkien inspired stuff. I'm a huge fan of soft magic systems, and I think that the magic is my favorite part of this book. Very vagabond-esque. I'll be annoying and say that. Lots of vagabond in this book, even though I know you wrote it way before.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of connections that I drew. But yeah, no, I loved it. I thought it was excellent.
Wonderful. Yes, I love the magic too. That was my favorite part. And Jimmy, we haven't heard your thoughts on The Way of Edan yet.
Well, I had a great time with it. I was a little concerned at the beginning of the book when it started out with like, you know, a very familiar trope. And I was like, okay, Philip's playing it safe here. And then he took enough left turns to get me invested. And I was glad to see that Philip was making, you know, what we would consider more of a classical type beats into his own. So that was really cool. And the thing I enjoyed the most was the priest, that entire setup. It's probably actually one of my favorite angles that I've read in this year, like in fantasy. I was talking a little bit earlier with Alan actually off stream, and we were talking about like fantasy that stood out to us this year, the lack of. And I have to say, I think the pre-storyline in Way of Edan is probably the thing I'm most like keen to read more about out of all the books that I've read this year. So I think that is a tip of the hat to Philip. And yeah, I had a great time with it.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about the priests some more in this particular video. But Alan, I know you did a wonderful review of this book. And do you want to share any general thoughts here before we get into other things?
I'm basically the lower sub count version of Jimmy's channel because Jimmy just took what I was going to say and he knows it. Because that's literally what I told him the whole time I was reading it. And Jimmy's like, you know what if I just take Alan's main point about the priests and just say that. So if you can't afford to watch Jimmy's channel for $2.99, you can watch my channel, which has similar opinions, but less popular. I like the priest stuff. Like I'm reading for Bloodlet and Yorman the whole time. I'm like, get him, like turn him into a priest. Oh, sorry. I also spoiled Dave Raven's voice. No,
don't do it.
Wild nuts.
Oh my God.
Stop.
That's Dave Raven.
Oh, Alan.
Sorry.
Philip, I don't know if you know what you were doing when you made that decision, but
That was your fault, Jimmy. You're the one who told me to.
yeah, you're right. I'm always playing 4D chess.
Can you tell me what your voice is for Erd?
It was Jimmy's idea that Alan should be the audiobook narrator. This is what they're talking.
Yeah, I want to hear Alan's Erd as well, Merphy.
Yeah. Can you tell us what your Erd is?
My Urd.
Oh,
because I said Erd, it's Urd.
Oh,
Urd.
I've been saying it wrong.
Everyone has. It's also Yoramon.
How do you pronounce ballsack?
Bagsack.
Bagsack.
Alan's the audiobook guy. He says
Bagsack.
Yeah.
Is that how you're going to say it, Bagsack?
It's not bog sock. It's Bagsack.
Such an unfortunate name.
It is not.
It is, by the way, a real name. It's a real Old English name.
Oh,
That's unfortunate. That person was picked on. He was rolled for quarters on the daily.
not to be confused.
Keep us on track.
Okay, not to be confused with another name that AP gave this character, which I keep accidentally slipping on. But anyhow, so yeah. So did you finish with your thoughts, Alan?
Did I start them?
No.
General thoughts about the book?
Why is this priest bullying me? I liked it. I liked it, obviously. I liked it. I like the priest stuff like a lot because I like priesthoods. And Philip does something later in the book with the priests that I thought was really, really nuanced and different than what I was expecting, because you predict what's going to happen. Like, okay, cool, like here's where we're going, and then I'm like, oh, this is not where we're going. I see. I like where this is headed. I like the freaking mucus trolls. Those things are nasty. I ended up liking the dwergs. why don't we have dwarves in fantasy anymore? Like, what happened to dwarves? You know what I mean? Like, and then someone's like, oh, Lord of the Rings. Like last time I said that in our live, someone's like, Lord of the Rings.
Anymore.
Thank you, Merphy, because you can hear. Thank you. Thank you. Like I like dwarves. I miss dwarves. So yes, there are dwarves. Sorry, there are dwergs. And they are from, I don't know what their place is, but I have it recorded how I'm supposed to pronounce it.
Fahrenhaus. Fahrenhaus.
There you go.
Have a map somewhere.
And I like Sequora. Like I like Palpatine.
She's my favorite.
Yeah,
Sequora.
I like Sequora a lot.
Well, her and Erd.
So yeah, I thought it was well written. I enjoy where it's going. You know, the classic like type of, you know, farm boy going on a quest, like going to an inn. I'm like, if I see another inn, Philip, I'm gonna drive to New Jersey and I'm gonna turn your house into an inn. But that I mean, I liked it a lot. So I'm really excited. What?
Of the main perspectives, Dayraven, Sequera, and the priest, Dayraven was my comfort POV, and the priest, I was like, all right, I'm good. Let's move on.
That's not surprising, Merphy. We have other than like,
you're right.
Other than the City Watch,
we're opposites.
We do not think the same on books, which is weird. But yeah, I liked it. I'm really excited. I've talked to Philip about where it's kind of going, and I'm super excited to see where it's going.
That is exciting.
Like,
and
I know what happened at the end. So
of
I know
the
trilogy at the end of book 1. Like I know what is at the end of book 1. Like, because
we all read it.
I mean, I know, but like I know what it's in reference to, as opposed to, you know. I flat out asked him. I'm like, hey, Philip, does this mean this?
Okay.
And he's like, dude. And I'm like, dude.
Can I ask that question too? I mean, not right now because we're spoiler free, but I want to ask the question too because I have a thought.
Philip, would you like to respond to anything that anyone has shared or that we've all shared so far?
Wow. Yeah, no, I'm glad that people connect to different characters and that they enjoy the basic plot, I guess. And my love of fantasy is, of course, I think pretty obvious there. But also there's a lot of as I said, there's Buddhist influences, Eastern influences. There's Celtic stuff and Old English and Old Norse. The basic idea, the way in which I tell the story is very influenced by Beowulf, actually, which has, you know, you could read Beowulf as just a 3 monster slayings and that's it, right? That's the surface level, that's the plot, and you can read it, enjoy it on that level, but there's also all these little side stories going on simultaneously. And those side stories are there for a reason. It's very associative, Old English poetry. In other words, there are themes that are being reinforced in these side stories, things about the fleetingness of life and meeting that fleetingness with a sense of determination and courage, and the idea of doing great deeds in order to make a name for oneself and all of that. So those are constantly being reinforced by these side things. So I inserted, I mean, I didn't just do songs in there for the sake of torturing Alan, you know, although that was a motive, but
rude.
Yeah.
How many undulates did you put in for the sake of torturing Merphy?
For Merphy, I did stick in a few undulating moments.
I didn't even catch that.
Really?
That was the first thing Merphy said to me is, how dare you? How dare you use the word undulate? No, it was really funny.
That's beautiful. And I've also learned from you, Philip, that Beowulf could also be, it could be understood as a Christian lament. And
yes. Yeah, it is a lament for the past. It really is. That's what Beowulf is. More than an epic monster slaying story. It's a lament for the past, for the lives that came before and were lived surrounded by that darkness that you know, was a part of what they had to confront and try to make sense out of life within that darkness, in the moments that they had. So that's a big part of it. And I guess I tried to do something similar in The Way of Edan and in the trilogy as a whole, where you could read it at a subtextual level, where a lot of these songs, you know, so for example, exile is a big theme in the book, and you have several characters in the present in the story who are exiles for one reason or another. And then there's this story within the story that keeps popping up. That's the story of Alsheen and Wilfar, which is referenced early on. It's brought up again, and then it's brought up one final time. And that's the story of an exile. And that's seen from another perspective from hundreds of years before. But I think it has bearing on the situation of the characters in the present. So there are moments like that, and then there are moments like where I guess we're not doing spoilers yet, so I won't say the other example. We can cover that later. But I've tried to put in things like that, like foreshadowing and thematic echoes and things like that that'll reach across the 3 books as well. So.
Excellent. Yeah. And so before we go into spoilers, I did have a couple more questions for everybody. So one would have to do with themes. And I know that Philip talked just now about exile and about courage, about the sentiment of life's fleetingness. But were there any other themes that spoke to you, Merphy?
Oh, connectivity was a big one for me in the magic and in the way people interacted with other cultures that they would encounter and creatures that they would encounter. Keeping it spoiler free, just that kind of understanding of one another and releasing of selfish inward looking to connect, and how that kind of affected everything. That was a big one that rang home for me.
Beautiful. What about you, Alan? I'll go to Alan next, so he's not.
No,
last.
go to Jimmy. Go to Jimmy. Go to Jimmy.
Okay, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Okay, Alan.
A frustrating level of loyalty. How about that?
Frustrating.
Yes.
Frustrating.
Yes. And I understand it, because I have loyalty to people in my life that I'm like, I don't owe this person anything. Why am I ruining my day to help them?
So you're Jay Raven?
Oh, please do not insult me like that. Oh my goodness. More like lame Raven, am I right? Or am I right?
I need Day Raven. I need Day Raven to stick to a decision. Like,
my goodness.
Day Raven is following a teenager, and this is what they want to do, but tomorrow they want to do this. It's like, I need you to make up your mind, bud. We traveled literally 300 miles to get to this inn, and now you don't want to do this? Now you want to go the other way? No.
I need him to realize that he's in a fantasy plot and stick to the plot, bro.
I just need him. He's just like, oh, you dwarves. Oh, you guys are great. Let's go do this. Like, hey, Raven.
I better swear this oath.
Okay,
stop with the oath.
Oh man. So yeah, frustrating loyalty, and I think anyone that read the book knows what I'm talking about at this point. I just want to like bully him very hard for some reason, and but I do feel that. I feel that because I do have loyalty to people that honestly don't, like, it doesn't make sense. It is a contradiction within my human nature for some reason. Like, logically, I know that I could probably just cut ties and no one would blame me, but I can't seem to help it. I do think Day Ravens is a little bit less pessimistic than mine, though. So
yeah.
Good guy. He tries to do the right thing.
He does
all the time.
Yeah, it can't be done. Like, you can't please everybody. Otherwise, your quest is going to get pushed back 300 pages.
And then you're going to force an old lady. Never mind.
What about you, Alan? Any themes?
I mean, I always like discussions of power and corruption and manipulation, because I hate that in real life. And so watching the priesthood, like even the fractious like sects within the priesthood, where you have true believers who think one way. You have true believers who feel the need to be aggressive, and then you've got people who are not true believers or may have once been true believers, but people who think that, like, well, this is the power structure, so it would be foolish if I went and said, yeah, I don't believe this stuff, because then I'm not like in the power structure. We see that all the time. Like today, people say that they believe stuff because it's politically expedient and to do so. And we have characters who are doing that, and and then we have the kings and the freaking leaders of these places like, no, I'm not helping them. No. And it's like, why? They're gonna like they're gonna crush you separately. Like, no, because no, it's never, you're never gonna get crushed. Our army will stop them. Like, no, they won't. Like, you're gonna get ruffle stomped in like 2 seconds. Like, you just watch them get ruffle stomped. You're about to get face rolled. Like work together, guys. But like, pride is always in
And
the
history
way.
and how history plays a role in that as well, I think.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
They're like, we hate those guys because we're racist. So I
Mm.
always like that. I always like power struggles at the top to see how, I hate corruption, and I always want those characters to like burn very quickly. But at the same time, I'm like, dang, I like this guy, because secretly I want to be a supervillain. Unfortunately, I am not, but secretly I want to be.
I don't think it's really secret, Alan.
You know, it's interesting though, because I remember, Alan, you and I were talking about this with the priest as well. So another
Yeah.
theme that I thought was really interesting in this particular story, and I think it's kind of the flip side of faith, is doubt, and how doubt was explored with some of the characters. Of course, I won't go into details since we're still in the spoiler-free section, but also related to what Merphy said too with connectivity. I loved how empathy was explored in this story. I thought it was so unique, the display of empathy, which was also related to the magic, and I'll just keep it at that for now. But the next question I also have for you all, and I do love loyalty too, and I relate to what Jimmy said as a hardcore loyalist myself. So next question I have though is actually related to something that Jimmy, you've mentioned about how you felt like the nice thing when you were reading the story is that you didn't think of Philip when you were reading the story, that you felt like you were able to separate the author from the story while you were reading it. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously always going to be a concern. And I read a lot of people's writing, like, whether it be like people just showing me stuff that they're working on or whatever it else might be. I find, it's funny because, Philip obviously is my friend, and a lot of people probably think that means that he gets a pass, but he doesn't. Like, and I don't know why this is, but I actually judge harder for people I know, which is unfair. It's very, very unfair, but it's just how my brain works for some reason, because like I almost want to go the opposite direction just to make sure that I'm not being biased. But I found myself after like chapter 5 or 6 to kind of like let any of that feeling go. And it wasn't so much that I was reading a Philip Chase book and I was just reading a book. Part of that, I think, has to do with the fact that I do think it's good and I think it's well written and the editing was there. And, I'm not seeing spelling mistakes like every 3 pages. That would definitely have pulled me out and I would have been angry at you, Philip. But yeah, I don't know. I can't really explain that because I have read other people's books and have thought of the author the entire time. And that makes it a lot more conflicting whenever you're trying to formulate your opinions. But like whenever I finished the book, I had a really good sense of what I enjoyed and what I didn't. And there was no conflicts there. And part of that's probably because like if there's ever been a self-published author that you can be mean to, it's Philip, because Philip's so nice. So like we can just like, stick the knife in and turn it, and he's gonna be like, thank you so much, appreciate it. So that helps. But yeah, I can't really explain it. But I really didn't think of you, Philip, much when I was reading the book. I just kind of experienced it, which I think is because it was good.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. I
Wonderful.
think, in other words, you're saying that you had no trouble making me dead.
Yes, you were dead to me for what, 463 pages? Yeah, you were dead to me, or however.
Dead author. Yeah.
Dead author. And what about you, Merphy? Did you feel that way, or did you have a different experience?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought of him, especially with the number of vagabond connections, because Philip and I have really dug in to certain thematic discussions. And so there were a lot of those thematic discussions and things that he and I.
That was Alan.
He's holding a big old grudge against me right now. Things that we had discussed deeply, and I was seeing them in the book, and I'm like, he has talked to me about this stuff in regards to other series. So I definitely, but that was, I don't know, I don't really feel like that affected the way I perceive the book so much as just appreciating my friend a little bit more. But as far as the story goes, I don't know. I don't think the book carries Philip's voice, like his speaking voice at all. So I didn't think of him that much except for that one thing.
Yeah. So what's interesting for me, and I did mention this in my review, but I thought of Philip the whole time I was reading it. And I haven't, honestly, I haven't read Vagabond, so I haven't gotten a chance to watch your wonderful discussions. But Philip is such a great teacher, and I've watched all his videos. And so I felt like so many of the themes that just came out the page at me because I knew from discussions with Philip, and Philip and I have discussed a number of books together as well. So the courage theme about life's fleetingness and doing the best we can with the time that we're here, and even the empathy part, and about learning to look across our barriers and see beyond our differences to other people, looking at the way we other people, all these different things I was very familiar with, and I couldn't stop thinking about Philip the whole time I was reading it. So I kind of felt bad because I heard Jimmy say that about how he didn't think about Philip. I'm like, dang it, I thought about Philip the whole time, with one exception. And that was during, I think, the priest chapter. I want to say it was chapter 8. I could be wrong about that type. Yeah, chapter 8. With Yaruman, or however you say his name, and
So
Arna. I loved those particular characters, and I felt like I told Philip this a couple of times, and I said in my review, but I really felt like when I was reading that chapter, like Philip was channeling a different voice coming through him, because it was so convincing to me, but it didn't feel like Philip to me. So that was very exciting, and I'm thrilled to talk about that. But I wanted to pass this question to Alan, but he doesn't seem to be available at the moment.
Well, can I comment on that? Because
Yeah, please
Euramon,
do.
in my head, Philip's Euramon.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We had a
I don't know why.
flip experience.
Explain yourself.
I don't know. Like, for some reason, I was like, I feel like this is Philip's writing. Like, I just, I don't know why. I was just like, in my head canon, whenever Euramon, I thought of Philip. So that is the only moment where I was like, Philip's in this book. Not because I think he is Euramon. I wish he was. It would be hilarious. Because Euramon's not very ethical. But, well, you could argue. Anyways, I don't know. For me in my brain, and also, by the way, I'm not a visual reader. I have a really hard time like picturing a lot of stuff, and like and there's nothing going on up here ever. And that's the only thing I could like imagine is just like, well, what if Philip was Euramon? That would be ironic.
He does have a good beard.
Yeah.
I have a spoiler-free thought I'd like to say before we move into spoilers.
Yeah, please do.
In the 3 main kind of sections of people that we follow, even though there are definitely perspectives that I enjoy more than others, there's something that's really unique to enjoy in each of them for me. Like Sequara, right? Am I saying her name right? I'm so bad with names.
Yes, you are.
Sequara is my favorite character in the book. And the way she engages with the world, the way she engages with magic, her empathy, to use your word, is all, I loved it so much. But Day Raven was my comfort perspective, where it's like, I know this story. I know where we're going. I know, which he didn't follow the plot, but I was like, comfortable. This feels nice. And then with the priest, while that was the perspective that I always wanted to hurry along, and I was like, let's do something else now. That was possibly the most thought-provoking section as well. So no matter, even though I would rank them differently, I feel like there was something unique to pull from each.
Yeah, I think that is really special. And I do think it's special that we all had kind of different experiences with these characters, as you were saying, Philip, because I felt that, I feel like my feelings of the characters were somewhere between Merphy and Alan's, because Sequara was my favorite character, but then Yaruman was a close second. I loved that character. But it was really fun to see that contrast, like what Merphy is saying, to see the contrasting experiences provided there.
Yeah, that sounds great, because it is hard for me anyway, I think, to get distinct voices for characters in your writing. That's something that you really have to work at. Like, we think of writers like Joe Abercrombie, and everybody talks about, wow, how distinct his characters are, how you can, their voices are just so vivid. And guess what? He has to go over that again and again and again to achieve it. I've heard him talk about it. Might have been in an interview with you, Merphy, actually. But anyway, I've heard him talk about that, how he has to go back and edit his book and edit it again and again to make sure that voice comes through, that, and we all think it's just there, so I think it's a hard thing to achieve in writing.
You can tell that you've spent a lot of time polishing this. It shows.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, wonderful. Did you want to add anything, Alan, spoiler free, before we move into spoilers?
So what was the question? Was there a question?
The question was,
Friggin'
well,
I ordered
actually-
stuffed crust pizza and they sent me regular pizza. And I was on the phone and they can make me another one, but they can't deliver it. Well, guess what? My freaking legs hurt. I can't drive, dude. So like, so I gotta eat this crappy non-stuffed crust pizza.
Just so people know who might not know, Alan was in a car accident. That's why he's not just whining about sore legs, you know. So yeah,
I overdid it in Rome. We walked too much over uneven ground, and so now my legs hurt really bad. I'm trying to recover, but anyway, what was the question?
The question, that's okay. The question was, how did you experience the book as far as knowing Philip was the writer? Did you think of Philip while you read it?
Yes,
or
Philip wrote it. Philip writes like he talks. Yes.
Oh, opposite reaction.
It was the opposite of what
Yes,
Merphy
like
said.
I can only hear it in Philip's voice. Yes, it's Philip. Yes, it's Philip talking about waxing about his Vikings and his Celtic stuff. And he's like, oh, look at this. Look at this fancy forest with these elves.
I don't think he writes the way he
duets.
talks.
No, certainly, you haven't heard him lecture.
I have hours of Philip content on my channel.
Then you're not listening to him when he lectures, because that's what it sounds like. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like it sounds like Philip. Like if you read something I wrote, you'd be like, man, these people talk the way Alan talks.
Everybody would be talking in all caps.
Everyone's very angry.
Okay, one, I'm not angry all the time. Two, I use all caps because no one can hear me. And I need my comment to be seen, because if it's not, I will physically feel ill inside. So two, I'm not grouchy. I'm just, anyway.
I'm not grouchy.
I write all caps because they can't.
They can't. This is just how I talk. This is just how I'm one of the nicest people y'all know. You just don't know it.
that's true.
That is so funny.
My face hurts.
That is so funny.
So yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but yes, like to me, it was not surprising at all that it was now.
Same.
Some people,
No, I was the same way.
Yeah, some people say some things in the book that I'm like, I cannot imagine Philip saying it. Like
There
talking
was
about
some
people's,
colorful language in this book I was not expecting.
and then talking about people's bosom. I'm like, I don't want to hear Philip talking about people's bosom.
It wasn't him.
Yeah,
But
it's
it
not me.
was. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Pervy Philip.
that's the stuff that I'm like, that I can't picture Philip doing.
Right.
Like
That's
when
the
it's writing
Euromon coming out of him.
Oh yeah, and people's bosoms.
Okay, we're in
Yes.
spoilers now, I think. Wait, let's hold on just a little bit.
His
longer.
bosom's the line for spoilers.
Is it?
Did I have bosoms? I don't even remember.
You said bosom, I promise.
I think
It's
you said
talking
booby once.
about one of the many in girls.
Yeah, Imhar, however you say his name.
That's
he's
right.
a
You
bosom
did.
chaser.
You did
Philip was
right.
right in that chapter.
I know he said, but I don't know why we're having to affirm this. I said it. Like I know it was there. Like
Philip, do you want to
Yeah.
respond to anything that we shared?
Do you want to respond to scathing attacks?
I think we crossed the spoiler line. Now that we have revealed there are bosoms.
There are bosoms.
Yeah. So yeah.
No,
So
maybe
I'm
I'll
ready
just
for
put, like,
spoilers.
I
Maybe
do
I'll
not
just
think it was
put,
a bad
mild
thing
spoilers
that
here.
I could hear Philip when I was reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. Okay, wonderful. Let's go into spoilers now. So, Philip, did you want to respond to anything, by the way?
No, I mean, I think that was all wonderful to hear, and my jaw hurts from Alan. Thank you, Alan, making me laugh.
I'm here for.
Yep. Somebody's got to do it. But yeah, no, that's great. And those are all wonderful reactions, and it makes me really happy to hear. But in terms of the spoilers, I hope there are cool moments that stuck out and that people liked. But there are also, I think, now that we're in spoilers, I can maybe talk about that example I was going to talk about earlier, where I tried to at least insert some connections and some foreshadowing, just to give a simple example. So there's a chapter early on where Urd sends off Dayraven after he's been exiled, before she sends him off, she kills a goat. And, you know, on the surface level, they're going to eat the goat for breakfast. She's killed the goat, right? That's, you got to kill it to eat it. So, but there's a sort of sacrificial, I think, aspect to this. And the idea of her killing the goat. She's told Dayraven previously, look, because you have this power in you, people are going to try to use you. I'm going to try to use you. You should know that. And so I've wanted people to get the sense that she's sending him out into the world, and that is a sacrifice, that she knows that training him means he's going to be used as a weapon, that his whole life that he wanted to be, you know, everything that his identity was wrapped around, it's gone. And you know, not only is he in exile, but he's going to find himself becoming a very different person. And so there is a huge element of sacrifice to that act of her sending him out into the world. And so it's not explicit, but there's that connection I hope that people make.
That is interesting, because I was thinking when I read that, I'm like, I know Philip's a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And here we are sacrificing a goat. And so I knew, I did know.
I forgot he was a vegetarian.
I knew that, but
I
also
sorry, go ahead.
But I also got the sense, I'm like, Philip wouldn't do this lightly. And I did get the impression with Yurd, how do you say her name?
Urd.
Urd. With
Urd.
Urd, that it seemed like she talked to her goats.
She loved her
cared for
goats.
her goats.
She loves her goats.
Yeah, she loved her goats.
Yeah.
She
So
loves her
that,
Dayraven.
Yep.
Yeah. Great.
Jimmy.
I love hearing that context though, because I didn't quite go that far in my mind. That's beautiful though.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Jimmy,
So
do you remember when Philip snatched the bacon from my hand and threw it on the ground? Do you remember that?
In Orlando? Yeah.
Yes.
It was intense. We were all having breakfast, you know, and Philip said, how dare you? And
I was trying to eat bacon.
But he grabbed it with a napkin. He wouldn't even
That
touch
sounds like
Yeah.
him.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretentious.
Yeah.
that was a
Philip,
Yoruman moment for sure.
It was a Yoruman moment.
Let's talk about Yoruman. So what did you all think of Yoruman? It's spoiler filled now.
Ooh, let me go first.
Yes.
Okay.
He was my favorite. He was my favorite. Chapter 8 was one of my favorites in the whole book, because it just like sprang out at me. It was something like completely different than like the first 7 chapters of the book, and I don't really know why. But there's I don't know, there's something special about chapter 8 that I really liked, and that's where I was like, okay, so there's more going on here than I thought. About, you know, Yoruman is, you know, like Philip and I have discussed it since then, where you like if it was today's day and age, Yoruman would be a scientist. Like he's trying to find you know, he's trying to find truth where he can find it, but he does not think that, you know, Edan is the way. It's just like that's what he's currently that's the system he's currently in that allows him to keep to do his own, I don't want to say do your own research, please no, but to do his own like investigation into kind of what's going on. So he needs Bledla in charge. Like he needs the priesthoods. He needs them where they are so that he can keep looking for what he's looking for. And I just thought that was really interesting. And to watch him come out of the shadows, manipulating Bledla, where like I didn't see that coming, that he's you know, like that him and Bledla are swapping, like that one moment where I'm like, oh, Yoruman's gonna be the main bad guy. Okay, it's not gonna be Bledla. Like I just thought it was really cool. So I'm a huge Yoruman fan, but I also like Bledla.
Yeah, it was fascinating because it seemed like with what he was talking about with the magic, with the gift, it seemed to me that was the hint for me. I'm like, oh, there are going to be some really interesting reveals about the gift in future books, I'm assuming. But any other thoughts about Yoruman?
Oh, I mean,
oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, you, Jimmy.
No,
Make it.
you. No, you.
Go.
I mean, I was just gonna say I don't think the priest would be even remotely as interesting without Yoruman. Like he's a very important piece of that puzzle, and his introduction is the best POV introduction for me.
Yeah.
Arna actually stole the show for me.
Cool. Arna's also cool.
Arna was cool.
Yeah. They're kind of the same but opposite, both wrestling with it and just doing it in completely different ways. Arna kind of suppressing his doubt and fear and trying to work through it quietly, not speaking about it, not really, just trying to be the diligent, good one, and easily being manipulated and forced to do what's expected, which I really appreciated. You know, we've talked a lot about power and corruption and that, but I also really appreciated the emphasis on manipulation. And I think that was displayed really well. The humanity of these priests and their very layered motivations was all displayed really well.
Yeah.
Did y'all, because I didn't get it, like Philip had to tell me, did y'all get that Arna was the one who passed Sequara the Song of Origin? Because I didn't. Like,
No,
Philip
I
had to
did.
tell me. Yeah.
I got
at the
it. Oh,
beginning.
yay.
Yeah.
Yes,
At the beginning.
I did
That's
get it.
Arna. I didn't know that either until Philip told me. So don't
Oh,
worry.
I didn't get that.
Word.
Wait. So what?
Joanna,
So-
why are
Yeah.
you a better reader than us?
I don't know
So,
because
Joanna,
I
what
don't
piece of
know.
this?
Sequara's given that Song of Origin.
Right.
I'm
It's
proud of
Arna that
myself.
gives
I'm
it
usually
to her.
bad at that.
So what
I'm
gave
usually
that
really bad
away?
about that kind of stuff. So
How
I'm really
did you
proud of
read?
myself.
Yeah, Joanna, what did you
the
see?
priest
No,
who meets
Joanna,
her.
what did you see? Tell me how you figured it out.
Because it just seemed to me that his motivations were coming from a softer place. And I kept on thinking back to the guy who was giving her the song. I can't remember. And I think there might have been a descriptor too that gave it away. And I can't remember what the descriptor was.
He was old.
But
He had an older man's voice.
somehow I figured it
now you
out.
can
But
tell
I
us
was,
the full. I just wanted to hear what you picked up on that I missed.
yeah. I think at first it was, yeah. And didn't it get confirmed later on in the story too? Or did I just, am I
He
just
says
remembering?
he gets all upset that he's like he apologizes to himself for having betrayed
That's true.
Bledla.
He does.
That's
And
right.
I
Yeah.
I thought that was for something that was coming up,
Yes, I did
not for
too.
something that had already
Ah.
been done.
That's
I
what
was
I thought
waiting
too.
for the future reveal for that.
No, because I already assumed it at that point. And then when he apologized, that was like my confirmation.
Yeah.
But
Are
I'm
there
really
other
proud of
layers to
myself
it,
because
though?
I'm usually terrible at picking up on that kind of thing. So cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it was Arna. There's more to Arna as well that you'll find out in the second book. You can piece it together. I've seen people do it. There was a person on Mike's Discord who I saw put it together. Really, really clever. I mean, very observant person. But there is more to Arna's arc, and it has to do with the past, and it has to do with, I don't want to say too much because I want people to find it out for themselves, but you can piece it together in terms of Arna's guilt about, I guess, where he is now, but it has a lot to do with the past as well. So yeah, I don't want to say too much, but there, you'll learn, you'll put it all together by the second book for sure. But you can put it together in the first, but I've seen people catch it, but it's really kind of it's a bit obscure, I guess, but yeah, deliberately so, because it comes out in pieces, and then you realize, oh, that's where Arna was coming from. That's why he's like this with Bledla. And there's another character you haven't met yet, but has been talked about in the first book that has a lot to do with all of this too. So
I had a question about the gift, because I think it was interesting because it seemed like if you have the gift, you kind of had two different pathways before you. You could either become a priest of Edan, or you could become a sorcerer or sorceress with the Andumaic gods. Is that correct, Philip?
Fingertips.
Yep. It's the same. I mean, everybody has the same, they understand it differently. So just as they have different religions, within those religions, they've appropriated this magic, and they've explained it in relation to their own deities, but it's the same energy, presence, what have you. And they have different ways of accessing it. So you've seen, even like Dayraven with the elf, there's a nuclear level of the gift, if you will.
Okay.
And with Sequara, she understands it in relation to her god and goddess, and a kind of an achievement of balance within herself, and a kind of not indifference, but she has separated herself from her own
She has
ego.
a detachment.
She
Yeah.
has a detachment to her.
Mhm.
Whereas for Bladluck, clearly there's that scene where he whips himself, right?
Oh,
And
right.
that's the
Oh,
scene
yeah.
where he experiences a kind of transcendence because he subdues his flesh. He
Mhm.
becomes a creature of pure spirit in that moment.
Right.
And he sees it as uniting with Edan. That's how he sees it.
Hmm.
It's
I
a
saw
different
that.
way of
Yeah.
processing the same experience, I
So
think.
And it
there's
seems
a
like you drew from real religions and history, like the ascetics, they would actually whip themselves
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so interesting. And I guess I asked this because I was curious. It seemed like, I know in Sakara, this is the case. Like she talked about how at the end, like that it's impossible for her to form any sort of attachment to Jay Raven, like a romantic attachment. And it seemed like this one priest in the middle of the story was explaining this to Day Raven, that you're going to live a celibate life if you become a sorcerer or sorceress, or if you become a priest or priestess. So it's a celibate path with the gift.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. So if you become
Okay.
a priest or a priestess, then yes, they are supposed to be celibate. That's within the way of Edan. So that's the religion
Huh.
of Torland and Elend and so forth. For the Andumai, which Sequara is one of, Azralat is the Andumaic kingdoms. If you become the ruler of the kingdom, you are forbidden from personal relationships. But someone else with the gift can have personal relationships. So that
Oh,
is more exclusive to her
that's
particularly.
what, okay. Because I was really confused at the part where this priest is explaining this to Day Raven. And I was thinking, okay, if he has the gift, then it sounds like his pathway is going to be a celibate one. And he gets excited about like, oh, I'm going to master my gift. And then I'm going to go back to Ebba. I'm like, how?
Well, but his
Because
mom had the gift and she was
that's
able to.
true. But she
That's right.
rejected it, right? I mean, that was her
Well, it's
choice.
I
not
don't
that
think
she
she ever
rejected
learned
it.
about it.
Exactly. Yeah. She
Oh.
just, I mean, she might have suspected that she had it, but she didn't want to. So Ord says early on,
Yeah.
it's a lonely life. It's
Mhm.
it's a difficult life in many ways. And Ord happens to be celibate.
Yeah. She
he has a-
identified it in Day Raven's mom and was gonna tell her and then just pulled back whenever she saw what
She
path
made
her
the
mom was
choice
going.
to
Yeah.
make a different choice. Yeah. And so, and then that leads to my other question. So does Day Raven have the gift before the elf?
yes.
That's what I thought. Yeah. But the elf
Yeah,
probably
he just didn't know it yet. The elf awakened it much
awakened
stronger,
it more
right?
stronger.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure I got that right. I'm sorry, Jimmy and Alan. Please feel free to share thoughts. Jimmy.
Oh no,
any
you're
thoughts
good.
about
I honestly was scouring because Philip mentioned foreshadowing earlier, and
Hmm.
I could have sworn there was a section, but I can't seem to find it. I've been searching on my Kindle of Day Raven like looking back after he's exiled at his home and imagining it burning.
Yeah.
Did that happen, Philip?
No, not quite.
Okay.
Really?
Totally
I mean,
made it up in my head.
He's
That
looking at,
sounded familiar.
so when he is exiled on the top of the hill there, the Doom Ring,
Mm-hmm.
he Ord sends Imhard back into Kinsford to get traveling stuff, horses, etc.
Yeah.
And he's up there on the hill on the Doom Ring with Ord, and he's looking down at his village, and he can see fires in the homes. But they're hearth fires. They're not like nobody's home is burning down or anything like that.
But yeah, but he kind of imagines it in a way that could be taken as destructive, or am I completely wrong?
Not so much as he sees an image, like he's looking at the stars and he's looking at the dark spaces in between the stars.
Uh-huh.
And he's looking down at these fires and he realizes how remote he is now. He feels separated from these
Oh.
homes of his kin and his friends and everything he's known. So yeah, there's a sense of doom, but it's personal, not.
Okay. See, I took it as
I love
foreshadowing.
that.
I thought Day Raven is gonna like become the bad guy at some point and come back and like burn his home, which I was
Well,
super
there might.
excited for.
I mean, you might not be
There
on the wrong
is-
track there. But.
There are some indications that Day Raven could turn south. Like he might
I
could
got
get a
that
little
feeling.
corruption arc.
Yeah, I got
Well, and
that
we
feeling.
just mentioned the goat scene that he was, I mean, was that kind of the idea with the goat being a sacrifice or being used in some way? And I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm reading into that, but
Well,
sorry.
and he literally has his neck cut later on. I mean,
That's
that's a bit
true.
foreshadowing.
Whoa.
But
That's clever.
the large extent to it, and what you guys are sensing is there's something very dangerous about this presence that has inserted itself in Dayraven, and you're right to think that is scary, that he's running around with all this power, and it frightens people like Ord as well.
Yeah.
Okay, because that also was another question I was going to ask. And I was going to ask, are elves really all that bad?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Joanna. I mean, they're just really scary. Yeah. But they're beautiful at the same time, and they're showing us what we really are, which is we're not individual egos. We're part of the ocean. We're not happy little waves that are isolated from all the other happy little waves. We're part of everything. And that's what the elf is showing us, essentially. So,
and usually that's a beautiful thing. Like in Buddhism, that's a beautiful analogy.
and it is beautiful, but it's kind of frightening if you've ever had an experience where
yes,
a transcendental experience where it's blissful, but it's also kind of like earth-shattering at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that. I love the way that you did that, especially like on the battlefield for him to experience this empathy that he can't control. That was the coolest. That was so cool.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so
connectivity
beautiful.
to the damage being done, the harm being done. That was really powerful.
To see into the life of the person he was opposing and to see the whole backstory. Yeah.
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 What did you guys think of the battles, Jimmy and Alan?
Yeah, well, Jimmy and Alan, please.
I thought they were really good. I'm waiting for Alan to elaborate.
Oh, I thought you were going to. No, they were good. They were good. I was surprised at how visceral some of the fighting got, because it's kind of like atonal with the rest of the book, because that's when it doesn't sound like Philip, when it's in the battle. Like all the other chapters, they do. Like I can see Philip writing. When it comes to battle, like Philip isn't a violent person. Like there's nothing, like he's not an aggressive personality. So writing these like scenes of aggression and like, viscera dripping out.
Or the drool. I liked the drool hanging description.
Yeah. Philip does what I like when authors do, is use really like specific but like unexpected, like just details.
Gross.
To where it's like, of course that thing is there, but like people don't normally write that thing in battle. I don't have an example, but I know it happened a couple times where I'm like, that's really evocative and gross, probably. I'm sure it was with the mucus trolls. I think that I definitely noticed it, and like you guys said with the magic system, like that's where I thought it was like the coolest, where it's the trolls just like, why are y'all freaking in my swamp? Like, get out, bunga bunga. And then he zonks it anyway, because it's about to kill the Thioth, who I love. And then I was told it was a Viking, and I was like, oh no, I already like the Thioth, and now it's a Viking. Dang,
that makes sense that it's a Viking though, because isn't it from the northern part of the world too?
Grimrick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Thioth.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorites.
I liked him too. Yeah.
But
they made a nice little
like
a nice little quirky found family, with the dwergs.
Oh, we haven't talked about, how have we not talked about Yerkenwald?
Yeah,
that's my favorite guy. That guy's a tool. I love that guy.
Tell us.
How y'all don't read the same book as I do. Like seriously, like hey, you know what? It is lonely being on the spectrum, because no one reads the same book that I do. Like, how do we get this far and no one's mentioned Yerkenwald?
You haven't brought it up, Alan.
Oh, that's because I can't remember anything. Like, that's my problem, is I have early onset dementia. But the rest of y'all are talking about, hey, you remember on page like 7, the 18th word in the 5th sentence? Do you remember how that foreshadowed the 17th word in the 8th sentence on page 275?
Did you want to talk about the thing?
Yes, because Yerkenwald is on. What a douche! Like what a complete hedonistic, like whatever. Oh, priests? Yeah, sure. People believe that. That's fine. Just keep helping me take over crap, because I'm basically kind of a big deal. Have you heard of me? Erkenwald. Like, I love that guy. Also, drunk wife, get out of my face.
Oh my gosh, his
Wife
poor
needs to
wife.
quit being drunk.
His poor
Bledla,
wife.
you and me want to go, Bledla? 2 rounds? Let's go. Old man, I'm Erken freaking Wald. That guy, he sucks. But I should Philip has Philip. What I love that you did is I should hate that guy. I hate characters like that. But Erkenwald has this. There's some kind of like just affability about him that endears him to me, even though he is a Chad, and I hate Chads. Except for Jimmy.
Easy, I was
Except for Jim.
Except for Jim.
Coming for
No,
him,
I love Erkenwald. He is awful.
He'd probably be a very successful politician today.
And I hate those so much. But
I liked him. I liked him in contrast to Bledla too. Thought they were kind of fun to read about.
Yeah, there's
side
the
by
chapter
side.
where they're kind of like in the power struggle, and Bledla's like, excellent. He turned his gaze from me, and Erkenwald's like, whatever, old man, like I'm gonna do it anyway. Like, but they're locking the minds or whatever. I don't know. I liked it. That was a big reaction for like a fizzle. It's like the fireworks show where it's just those little white ones that go. But I really liked it.
Yeah, and we also haven't talked about those weird monsters too in the underground that they had.
Oh, the Grudug.
The torture monsters.
Oh, that nasty thing. It's gross.
It was gross.
Jimmy, what were you going to say?
stuff. Yeah,
Oh, I
Jimmy.
was just gonna say, I think Erkenwald and Bledla interacting is like the best thing for that whole storyline, because like you sit there and you're like, well, who would I root for in this circumstance? And Bledla seems like the worst to me, but by the end, I mean, not saying I like Bledla.
So much worse.
Yeah, Erkenwald's way worse. And Bledla actually has a moment of like self-doubt when he meets Dave Raven.
Yeah, I didn't get to talk. Yeah, that's my.
I figured we would get there.
It's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, it's really, really good. And it makes Bledla a better character for it.
100%.
Bledla, like, I'll be honest, Philip. So we did our Scott Baker talks. I remember you talking about religious fanaticism and how you're like, you were exploring it, and you talked a big game. Like you were like, I do it really well in my book. And I'm like, okay.
that sounds like Philip.
Yeah. Just wait, twerp. And up until that point, I was like, this isn't as nuanced as I would imagine Philip would do this,
but it is.
But it ended up being that way. And your book, I think it would have been a lot worse if that scene hadn't been in the book. And I agree with Alan. I think it actually is my favorite scene. And it started to hint at, I'm thinking a bigger picture going forward of like what Edan means to different people. And then obviously there's the whole power struggle, right? And the power dynamic. And then at the very end of the book, we see, Bledla laughing, like, and it's just, I don't know where he's going. I guess is the more interesting thing. It becomes predictable if a character is very one note or one dimensional, and Bledla took a while to get there, but turn that page. So
yeah, I loved that part where, because I'm not sure that I've seen that in a fantasy. Okay, so like the religious fanaticism, that is in fantasy. Like the church is the bad guy, whatever, we get it. But like I'm not sure I've ever seen like the high priest, the main bad guy, come in contact with the chosen one, who is clearly a threat, and be like, wait a minute, like. It's like that freaking skit where it's the Nazis going, "Are we the baddies?" Where Bledla goes, "Hold on, like, am I really not the chosen one? Like, was I wrong? Like, did I read the scriptures wrong?" And that moment of doubt, that was so good. But then you got freaking Yoramun over here on the side being like, "No, dude, it's you."
And Yoramun's doing his own thing.
Like, Yoramun has his own agenda. I love that. We have like 3 conflicting villain agendas going on.
Yeah, that's when I realized that. Yeah, that's when I realized there was something else going, because he's like, he's the like, dude, no, sire, like it's you. Like, what would Dan wouldn't do that. You know what? Let's see if he dies. Like, let's see if he dies, and then it's Dan's will. Never mind the fact that I'm hiring an assassin to make sure that he dies. Like, I just love that. Like, the fact that Bledla, I don't think I've ever seen that. Like, the main high priest be like, wait a minute, are my prophecies wrong? Like, did I read this? Because they always read the scriptures right. They're convinced it's like, I will be the chosen. It is me, this imposter. I must kill the child. And instead it's like, wait a minute, this dude's strong. What if he's the prophet? Do I need to like cultivate him instead of like nix him? It was so good. It was so good. I really, really like that part. And then Yoraman just being the political, he works in politics.
Which is funny because Yoraman, when you're first introduced, is kind of the favorable priest, at least to me, like at the very beginning of his.
He's the reasonable one. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you
really wait at the beginning of this chapter.
Whenever I was introduced to him, I thought, oh, this is like the divergent priest. Like this is the one I'm going to follow.
Trying to find truth.
And then you see his ethics are a little questionable at best. You're like, okay, all right. That's
okay.
Weird. But then in that chapter, it's like Bledla actually is the one that's having kind of a moment of shine up of like, hey, Bledla might have some, but like then Yoraman is like, nah. So it's just like a flip almost in that chapter.
Yeah. And Yoraman was interesting too, because there's a whole backstory there about his mother's death and how that informed who he is and how grief informs who he is. And
wanted to bring her back.
Yeah, there was a lot more nuance and care put into these characters than I initially expected when we first met them.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that they grow more. I didn't feel that as much with Dayraven, to be honest with you. Like Dayraven was my least favorite of the bunch.
No.
And I'm thinking though that Dayraven's arc is a much larger part of the picture. So like I'm thinking that I'll see that in book 2 and 3.
Yeah, same here.
Whereas the priest, you kind of had to do something in book 1, or they would have seen maybe possibly one note. So
yeah.
Can I talk about Dayraven for a minute?
Yes, please do.
I want to pick on him. I want to just like flick his forehead
because
I love him because he's that traditional fantasy lead and he's going on that traditional fantasy quest. And again, the magic is my favorite part of the book. All my favorite scenes have to do with the magic being on display and being explored. It's just, I love a soft magic system. I love how visual the magic in this book is. Oh my goodness, it's incredible. And I got promised that we were going to go find a guy to teach us how to use the magic. And I was like, follow the plot. Like, follow the plot, dude. You're noble. You're nice. You want to help everybody. You want to go find the sister. You want to do the oath and stay loyal to them. And that's all nice. You're so nice. But follow the plot. I want you to train in this. Go find Baldor or Baldar or however, whatever.
He doesn't even kind of find Galdor. Like, not even kind of.
Alan, like, I cannot tell you how mad I was when I got to the point that I realized this isn't going to happen in this book. It's like, there's not enough pages for this to happen.
Friggin' Galdor's been sitting there waiting forever.
I can promise one thing, you will meet Galdor.
I would hope.
We better. I was so
you're gonna meet him as Yoraman shanks him. That's what Philip just said.
Right.
You're gonna meet him as he's killed.
When
like, that's
poor
what he said.
Erd is on that ship and she's
Frickin'
like
Erd.
suffering her old bones to try to find him to get him back on track. And I'm there with her. I want her to go.
Freaking
back on track.
I was impressed
She's
that
amazing.
Sequara ended up interacting or intersecting with Dayraven. I didn't think that was going to happen.
I didn't think that was going to happen in this book either.
And that surprised me. So
Really? I thought she's looking for the dude that ever since it's like, no, we have to find who can wield the song. I'm like, okay, it's Dayraven. Like, cool. Like I knew they were gonna.
I knew that she was going to intersect with him. I just didn't know it was going to happen as early as this book.
This soon. Okay.
Yeah.
I expected it way later. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was going to happen because I knew that kid wasn't going to go see that. Wasn't going to see that wizard. Like, he's too busy. Hey, friends, the dwarves.
Dude,
So-
I
Let's
was
talk
like,
about
just leave the dwarves. Like, I was like, just let them die. Who cares? Like,
even the dwarves are like, dude, like, you should really go like learn how to be a wizard. He's like, I promised your sister, I can't.
dude, when he swore the oath, like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was literally like, can we get back to Yoraman? Like, this guy is dumb. Like,
and then they tell him, they're like, we're not going to hold you to this oath. And he's like, I will hold me to the oath.
yeah,
It's like,
God, just put an arrow through it. Oh yeah, Philip, I do have a bone to pick with you, actually. Not a bone, but I'm gonna be honest. I was disappointed Dayraven didn't die at the end of this book.
Did you actually think he would?
I thought he was going to die, and I literally was going to be like, Philip has written one of the best book ones of all time. Like, I was going to
I
lose
would have
my mind.
lost it.
I
I'd have
didn't believe it for a
lost it.
Because
second.
he was making so many decisions that I thought were just like annoyingly righteous. And I was like, I mean, obviously the elf's in his brain. I mean, clearly he's not going to die, but there was a moment where I was like, oh my God, Philip's going to kill this guy. And I thought about the possibilities of it, and I was like, oh, I wish he was dead. And now I just ended book one, and I was like, I wish Dave Raven was dead. I know that's
It's
mean,
because you
but-
love another series where the main protagonist dies in the first book.
Yeah, but even then, this would be bigger. This would be bigger because this is the
I'm
chosen
kidding. I'm
one.
teasing you.
Right.
Yeah, but like the chosen one
Well,
never dies in book one.
And
Like,
he's the one that makes the other chosen one question if he's actually the one. And
Like,
That's true.
what if he was the only one left? I
Would've
agree.
been
It would
wild.
be really interesting.
It would
Yeah.
flip the whole chosen one idea on its head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Philip, we need you to rewrite it. Go back, fix it.
Change the
You
ending.
gotta die.
I'm
Fix
writing a
Well,
books 2 and
fanfic.
3.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
All I can say is wait till you see who dies in book 2.
Oh
Oh
no.
no.
Oh no.
in
Don't
the,
hurt
in the fan
Sakura.
edit,
Yes,
Or-
please don't let it be
or-
Sequara.
Jimmy,
Uh,
in the audio, he'll die. He'll die in the audio. Don't worry about it. I got
We
you.
just have two cannons.
I got you. I got you. I don't know what I'll do about book 2, but I just won't read any of Dave Raven's lines in book 2. Like, just pretend like it's going on. Like,
I will say-
I'm gonna rewrite it.
Going off of what Jimmy said, that was like my one thing that I was like, no, don't do this when Day Raven died. And I was like, we're doing this because it's just like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the chosen one or the lead who dies and then is revived or, you know, has some sort of spiritual encounter and comes back. And I didn't believe it for a second because he had the elf in his head. And it just, I knew that there had to be more. So I was like, no, we don't have to do this.
Yeah,
But I
thought the
was
mind-
thinking that the elf could get in somebody else's head too. I mean,
That's
that
what I was thinking,
potential.
Joanna. Yes, that's what I
That
was
would have
thinking.
been real interesting.
Especially of us
Yeah.
all being connected and like we're all this one thing.
I'm into that.
I was
Philip,
like,
Yeah.
whoa, what if
Change
this
it.
story is the elf just using people to the end? Like I you know.
Yes. What if we stopped telling Philip that the book he didn't write would be awesome?
Sorry, Philip. I'm sorry.
Well, it's interesting because some of the stuff you're talking about happens in books 2 and 3, but I can't say what and when.
Ooh.
Okay.
I want to
I
ask
like-
you about the
Gotta know.
dwarg
They're the
The burial-
dwergs, Joanna.
Dwergs. Yes.
dwarg burial rites. The burial
Alan's
rituals.
favorite part. Alan's favorite part. Yes.
I forgot. I do have a line like, I don't care about dwarf funeral rites. I liked that it was there, and I understand why it was there, and it was well written. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like Day Raven, go see freaking Galdor, please, and stop watching these people bury these dwarves sitting up on a mound.
But you pointed out, and I thought you had a good insight there, and this is one of these subtextual things. So that's juxtaposed to what happens in the next chapter,
With
where
Sequara.
you with Sequara
Mhm.
witnessing essentially her culture's equivalent of a baptism of an infant.
Oh yeah.
And that's a deliberate juxtaposition. You really picked up on that beautifully. And I do that a lot in there. Like from the beginning, there's the 3 priests who sacrifice themselves. In the prologue, that sacrifice is directly related to the death of Oswy, which I felt awful about doing, but
Loved
at
it.
the same time, it's supposed to hurt. You're supposed to identify with this character. So when people say, I thought he was the protagonist and then you killed him, I'm like, okay, good, because I wanted it to hurt. It should
Yeah.
hurt. It
I definitely thought that.
Violence
I did too.
sucks. Yeah. So and when you start a war somewhere, it has repercussions that ripple and ripple and ripple and affect people's lives. And then I did want to juxtapose that with Sequara in her chapter, where she saves a girl's life as a deliberate contrast to what happens to Oswy. So that sort of thing, I'm trying to do, put these things together. So the Dwerg funeral, yes, it's all about that theme of life is fleeting, and not only does the individual die, but whole cultures pass away. That's the nature of life. But guess what? You have a birth in the next chapter. So, yeah.
You definitely hammered home life is fleeting, because I literally in my notes for
sure.
the book, I literally wrote life is fleeting. Like
Yeah.
that is just a bullet point on mine. So you definitely got that hammered home, I'd say.
But you do it with a hopefulness too. I think, with the
Hope so.
beauty and the hope behind it too.
Life is fleeting, but here, look, we're here together and we're making
Mhm.
meaning out of this moment. And that's beautiful. And that's why we're here, right? So
Yeah. I think, let's see, I wrote down a quote somewhere. Yeah, it says, "Now I'm ready for it, ready for the end. All a man can do is face what comes with as much heart as he can muster, and I'll face it with the joy of knowing you're alive wherever you go. Make the best of it and live with courage."
yeah, that's Anaraj Imhar's uncle talking to an Imhar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Towards
But you
the
also
end.
talk, and this also reminded me of you because I've listened to you discuss this before, about the idea of courage on the battlefield being the fear of shame, how the fear of shame by not proving yourself in war can override the fear of death as a warrior too. So I thought that was interesting to see that explored as well.
Mhm.
I think I even had that short story by Tim O'Brien in mind when I wrote
Mhm.
that line about, and he didn't say it quite that way, but very similar in the things they carried. The idea that Orvindil expresses to Dayraven that, yeah, courage is when you fear shame more than you fear death. And I
Yeah.
think
That was
that's,
cool.
yeah, that's something that I think most soldiers can attest to, I would guess.
Yeah, it was interesting. I liked that. And I also liked just the different ways loyalty played out in this story, because I know Jimmy was talking about the loyalty of the friendships and the oaths and everything. But there was also a line that I think it was, I cannot remember if it was, I think it was Aor, I cannot say his name, I'm sorry, the king.
Alan's
speak-
back.
Erkenwald.
Yeah.
Erkenwald. I think it was, go ahead.
Erkenwald. Sorry,
Erkenwald.
I just
I
keep
can't say
saying
it right. I'm sorry. I'm not the narrator, luckily. But but there was a line he said about like the people who were I think it was him. It was either him or Bledla who was saying something about the people who were following him were doing so because they lack imagination for anything else. And I thought that was a
that
really
definitely sounds like
interesting,
Erkenwald.
dark way of looking at the theme of loyalty, like looking at the shadow side of loyalty, of people not lacking imagination for something better. And how many people do that, just stick with the same old because, grudgingly, because I can't think of anything better. I don't know. It kind of got to me to read that as a loyalist myself.
Yeah, I mean, there's a I can't remember which Nazi it was, but one of the higher up Nazis who said something to the effect that it's very easy to control the populace. All you have to do is give them someone to fear and hate, and you've got them.
So that's not Goebbels?
It might be. It might be. I can't remember which one it was, but and I'm garbling the quote to some degree, but I think that's the gist of it. And Erkenwald really does embody that philosophy. He doesn't care about religion. He doesn't care about people except for himself. But he's happy to use religion and fear of the other to manipulate people to get what he wants. So
Yeah.
Speaking of quotes, like I don't highlight a ton of quotes when I read just because I don't highlight in my books. But I have the quote where Urd is talking to Sequara, and she says, "The truth is, it's easier to see the justice in people you deem to be like you, and far easier to find the wrong in those who differ." And I don't have anything to say about that other than I just like, oh, Alan likes something about justice.
I could see that quote being
quote.
highlighted over it.
Yeah.
So like on Kindle, and I don't know if you know this, Philip, but if you open up a Kindle book that a lot of people have read, there will be certain quotes that will be underlined lightly, and it'll show like so many thousand of people highlighted this quote.
This part, yeah.
And so there were so many quotes along the way, like that one that Alan said, that I could just imagine being one of those Kindle quotes that numerous readers highlighted.
I actually had the exact same thought when I read that quote that Alan just read. I was like, oh, this will be a Kindle highlight.
Yeah,
that's just one of those things. It's like we see it all the time. Like it's freaking wrong when you do it, but not wrong when I do it. It's like, Ben Franklin, rebellion's always illegal it's always legal in the first person, our rebellion. It's only in the third person, their rebellion, that it becomes illegal. Like it's just stupid. Like people, everyone nowadays, like you're mad at the same dang thing that you're mad at these people for doing. It's just so dumb. It's so dumb. I like it. I liked it, Philip.
Yeah, there was another quote that was said something like, oh, here it is. Only when danger comes to their doorstep will they act. That's human nature. So that's what King Balk says to Sequara about the idea that that the Holy War conquest is going to take over the Eastern kingdoms after they take care of the Southern ones. And so I liked that though, because I felt like that was part of the challenge that Sakara had ahead of her, is to get these kingdoms to oversee their differences and not wait until the danger was at their doorstep. So
Yeah.
I think that there were a lot of small ways, Philip, that you reinforced your themes as well. In particular, you just talked about war having ripples really far out. And I think that there were a lot of very small ways that you showed that as well. One that really stood out to me was when they entered a new city and there was a child that had died and was like, and everybody just walked around him. Nobody paid any attention. Nobody cared. Nobody flinched. And there were little things like that, like the way people would interact with life and death or with others, that you could see that that was just the ripple of the suffering and the pain that has been caused by all this.
Yeah, that's a scene that I took from my actual life. That happened to me.
Really?
Yeah.
what? Wow.
Yeah, in my travels, I kind of describe almost exactly what I went through when I saw a child on the street.
Wow.
Yeah.
People were just walking around it.
People, I've seen it in other cities too. Like I've seen it even in, okay, this is a different example, but in New York City once, I was in a store when a man had a heart attack, it looked like, and he collapsed. A few people went to help him, but most people just carried on with their shopping like nothing was going on, you know. And part of me kind of gets it in a way, because you sort of just shut out everything in order to just keep functioning. I'm not saying that's good, but it's a response that kind of sort of makes sense from a certain perspective, that, okay, well, sucks to be him, move on with my life, you know. And it's terrible because there's a lack of compassion there, but I think it's fairly common in the world, especially if you've already othered the person. So that's a street child. Nobody, that's an urchin. They're more animal than human. We don't have to care. There's thousands of them. What can you do? You know, that's the attitude, I think. So
That scene really affected me. So you wrote it very well.
Mm.
yeah.
Wow.
I don't like that.
Sorry. I mean, it's a huge bummer.
Yeah. Thanks,
you
Philip.
have somebody like Day Raven's response to it is, wait, we can't just walk by this. We have to do something. And of course, what are they going to do? You know, sorry, Joanna, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to try to change it to a happier note.
Oh, good.
But I'll just say, but I think you transitioned that beautifully, and I appreciate you sharing that. It's wonderful to hear what true inspirations you drew upon for this. I wanted to say though, and I keep forgetting to mention this, that one other thing that I loved about the magic was the way that the gift was able to be used to freeze the horses. I thought that was so clever.
Yeah, that was cool.
I've never seen that before, and I thought that was so clever, because I feel like, you know, especially in fantasy, so many characters depend on their horses and take that for granted. And so I just think it's always neat I don't know, I just thought it was neat the way that you did that.
Yeah, the way it was written, that he reached out and met the priest's energy and snapped it like a twig. Oh my goodness. That one hit me.
That was cool.
Description of the magic being used, man. It was my favorite part of the book.
Yeah. So yeah, that was how I felt too. I did have some disconnects with Day Raven as a character, just because, and this is me and my projection on that character. It just felt like I loved the chapter at the beginning with him and Ebba. And I thought it was beautiful. I know Alan said in his review that he could have even handled that being longer, and I could have too. And just to see what?
Ethelbert. What if we named our child Ethelbert?
That was hilarious. I love that. I laughed out loud. I laughed out loud at that part, because I was like, that sounds like something a couple, like a funny conversation a couple would have. And I thought it was hilarious. I loved it. So I loved that. I loved his life. I loved how he loved story, and how, you know, his relationship with his father, and to see all that get ripped away from him so quickly. I just wanted to see him process it a little bit more. I did see it at times, but I felt like there would be moments where he'd have a moment of weight or feel something in his chest, and then the next minute be like, woo, you know, look at this wonderful journey ahead of me. And so I kind of got, and I know he's a teenager, so I'm probably looking at him from the wrong lens as an older female. But one thing but I also loved Dayraven's elf magic scenes were some of my favorite scenes in the entire book. And when I read those parts, for those of you who don't know, I read while I'm walking on my treadmill. And so I was reading, and I was like, I suddenly felt like I was floating. There was something about the way that you captured that experience in words that made me feel like I was being transcended with the character. And the way that you described this one particular passage, it was a return to a place. It was a return not to a place, but to a state that always was and always would be. It was natural he should return, or rather, he perceived he'd never left. And then I'm going on from here. The life that had been Dayraven recognized home, and he flew towards the bliss of annihilation. And I thought that was so beautiful. And also, it reminded me of Buddhism too, because Alan and I just finished buddy reading Shogun together, and there's a lot of talk about Buddhism and karma and about the bliss of death in that book, and how death is a beautiful thing, and a transcendent thing. But I don't know, I just thought those passages just spoke to my heart. They were so beautifully written. They were so beautifully written.
Yeah, poor Dayraven's in shock, I think, to some degree as well. He's young and not very good at processing all this. And I think to some extent he is in shock. You know, he's doesn't really do a good job of thinking through everything. But he has a good heart, I hope.
He does. He does. Yeah. And I have to say, like, the end of the story with him being asleep, that was fascinating to me. I liked that he didn't wake up at the end, because I'm really excited to see how that will happen in the second book.
I hope it's the elf. I was sad the elf didn't get control of that one scene. It's like, dang it, unleash the beast, Dayraven. But he got it under control. I forget how. I don't know if it was just like he did or someone helped him.
Did he though, or did the elf let him?
I don't know what this elf is doing. It just sits there naked looking at him, and then all of a sudden he's in a coma and everyone's freaking out. And then he wakes up and everyone's freaking out even more. And they're like, but he awoke from the elf sleep. I'm like, so? Like, why are y'all freaked out about that if it's never happened before? How do y'all not know it? How do y'all know it's not
That's
good?
why they're freaking out, because it never happened before.
Yeah,
and
but
something
they're freaking
new
out.
is scary.
It's like, you know what? I'm going into a terminal coma from my cancer, and then I wake up and my cancer's gone, and everyone's like, no, what dark power does he have?
Cool, Alan, but is there a priest standing over your shoulder shouting, kill him, kill him, he's possessed, he's a demon, kill him?
Yeah, but those villagers, like, Bagsack didn't just show up with a carpet bag. Like, he's been there for a long time, and clearly no one listens to. Like, how many followers of Edan are in that village? One, and it's Bagsack. He's just so crazy. He's the crazy coot that runs around being like, oh, and the demons are coming tonight. Oh, make sure you wear your tinfoil hat, or they're coming inside. You'll never escape. Oh, the way of Edan is the only way. That's all he does, and people are like, oh, good old Bagsack. And that's when the credits roll, because of the sitcom. You know, he's the breakout character that everybody likes in the sitcom. He's just a crazy old coot.
Yes, but the elf sleep is a terrifying thing that they have seen happen to people, and they've never seen someone wake up. So having the crazy coot shouting over your shoulder, kill him, kill him, kill him now, while he's waking up from the eternal sleep, like that would be a bit unsettling.
I'm not talking about them being unsettling. They're like, oh, what danger could, like, the kid woke up. Like, he woke up from a coma. Next time I have a friend that's in a coma and he wakes up, I'm gonna be like, I don't trust it. Like, I don't trust it. What is he? He's back from this coma. How dare he? You know, the villagers were very I don't know.
Swayable?
Yeah,
no,
easily influenced.
They're just on edge. They didn't like touch some grass.
It's magic, man. Of course they're
Ebba was fine. Ebba's like, okay, cool. My boyfriend's back. Like, can I hang out with him? And her parents are like, no, he's got the demon inside him. Like, Ebba, just let Ebba hang out with her boyfriend, please. And, you know, David doesn't know what's going on. He's sitting there like,
Well, he's told don't speak or we'll kill you. So
he does have a gag. I thought you were frozen there. He does have a gag.
Oh, that's
This-
right. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
audio
There's a gag on pretty tight.
It'd be terrible.
It,
No,
it even
anyway,
cuts into his cheeks, I remember.
I just want the elf to like, I don't know. I'm excited for one, Daeraven's loss of control, where he just starts like Ari Makting across, like he just starts Emperor Palpatining like everybody, like. So here's the thing: Bledla's gonna die. Joramon's is gonna use Daeraven as like, the sword of cleansing fire. Erkenwald is gonna throw his army at all of them. There's going to be a schism between the church and Erkenwald, and Erkenwald is just going to wreck stuff. This is all things that I am excited about. That probably won't happen, but I just want, I just want these.
What was
people
the thing you were talking about at the beginning that you couldn't mention because of spoilers that you asked Philip about?
Oh well, I mean, I don't know if you want it spoiled.
Oh, it would be a spoiler in a way. I mean, you can conjecture about the thing that Bledla is controlling at the very end of the book. That makes
Is it the dragon? Is it not the elf spirit, but the dragon spirit?
Yeah, I read it as if it was going to be a dragon spirit.
It's a dragon. Go, it's a dragon.
Yeah, I was going to say, I felt like that was. I felt like
That's what I said.
It
I
was
said,
well
Philip, is
shown.
that a dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was good. It was good clues in there.
There are draconian references, yes. So
Bledla's smile hardened like the scales of a dragon, you could say.
yes, indeed.
Ooh.
But yeah,
Nice.
I think you'll be interested in books 2 and 3, Alan. Based on your wish list there, I think you're going to be pretty.
I just want death and destruction. If I can't have justice, I just want death and destruction. Like it either needs to be, we either need to be striving for the just society, or I'm
burn it all.
Yeah, seriously, like, yeah, or burn it all. So I'm good with that.
I also want to say we're all friends here, so we picked on you. But even like my nitpicks about this book, Daeraven wanting to flick him in the forehead, I enjoyed hanging out with Daeraven, even though I just really desperately wanted him to get to Galdar or whatever his name is. But like I enjoyed him I enjoyed all of his perspectives and stuff. I genuinely, I think that it was an excellent book.
It was. It was an excellent book. Yeah.
He acts like a teenager. Like I deal with people who are inconsistent or inconstant all the time. Like it's every kid in my class. Like this is like they have to do this today. They've sworn an oath. Like I swear, Mr. Walker, this time. And tomorrow it's like, hey, what about you swearing that you aren't going to miss any more classes? Well, these two dwergs came by, you see, and we had
He's
to go.
so hot. Remember? Isn't that what?
Sorry, yes, the armor of invincibility, but he's hot, Mr. Walker. Oh, well then that's fine. Like he only killed 3 people and buried them underneath his house, but he's hot. You're right.
I've been getting
right.
by on that my whole life. It's been wonderful.
What must that be like, Jimmy?
It's great.
I know.
No, I've lost my thought. Never mind. Go
Oh.
on. Oh no. I even though Daeraven, I like to pick on him, I also relate a little bit to his desire to do the right thing for all the people in his life. So it's like, yes. Oh, I can't. Oh, I've overcommitted. I can't do all these things. I've thrown off that one yes by saying yes to this. I see a lot of my own impulses to yes too much in him. So again, want to flick his forehead, but I want to flick my own forehead.
So yeah, and building on that, where is Daeraven's crippling anxiety and depression from being unable to please all the people he wants to please?
That'll come when he's aged out of being a teenager and he realizes what he's done to himself. As a teen, he can just be a flake.
Gotcha. Okay.
And he does live in a culture where an oath is much more serious than it would be to us. Like we make a promise and
For sure.
but an oath is a sacred thing. And he also, don't forget, connects with Ilm, that is Norn and Hlok's cousin, the Dwerg woman that he makes this oath to. He feels an incredible sense of connection to the extent where he feels like he's feeling her emotions. so he understands what she's asking and why. And so it's, I feel anyway, a good enough reason, because he feels the same fear that she feels for her cousin's lives. He feels the love that she has for them, and therefore he feels that bond. And it may feel like a kind of a weird direction for things to go in a way, but for him in that world, in that moment, I think it's a compelling, at least I tried to make it a compelling reason for that kind of left turn, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah.
That pizza's
Wow.
cold by now, Alan.
It's also nasty because it's not stuffed crust that I ordered.
Stop eating it.
What? It's all I have for lunch. It's the only lunch I have.
It's 4 p.m.
Well, I ordered it at 1.
I had veggies on my pizza today, Alan.
Of course you did. I always forget Of course you did.
Aw. Well, you did such a beautiful job with this book, Philip. One other thing I just wanted to say that I didn't say in my review is that I already want to reread it. I'm so excited to listen to Alan's narration of it. And for me, that's like the best compliment if I actually want to reread a book, because that just tells me like there's more to get out of this. And I'm
Yeah.
sure I didn't catch a ton of the foreshadowing.
There's so many layers to this book.
Yeah. And I'm so excited to see where it goes from here with everything we've talked about. Great.
Yeah,
Anything
no, I
else?
think you'll see a lot of it in books 2 and 3. Things will kind of change some things about the way you see book 1, and things will connect, and some of the foreshadowing happens within book 1, but some of it happens from book 1 all the way to book 3. And so, yeah, and it was a ton of fun for me to hear all 4 of you reacting to the story, and I'm trying to keep my mouth shut for some of the time. But I really want to thank all 4 of you for reading it. It just means the world to me that you guys would do that, and that not only would you read it, but you would talk about it and be willing to, meet here and have this discussion. I feel very loved. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You are very loved. We love you very, very much, Philip. And I always get a look from Alan every time I say something
Well,
nice
it's all right
about
for me.
Philip.
Look, Philip bullies me when he's not on these lives. He bullies me. He's like, "Hey, when you hitting 10K, Alan?" I'm like, "Probably never." But
That sounds like Philip.
I
it
thought that was
does.
Jimmy. That was Jimmy, not me.
Oh,
That
he
was
wore
me.
a tweed jacket. I got confused.
Yeah. Mine ripped, but
Any final thoughts you all wanted to share?
I do
So,
love Philip.
Alan,
It should be clear before people are like, "Why is Alan so mean to Philip?"
They're
I
all
love
going to
Philip.
think we're mean to Philip.
I mean, Philip, I just want to thank you for writing this book and then paying me to review it. It has really helped out with some of the costs that I have being a new homeowner. And yeah, I look forward to getting paid for book 2 and 3 as well.
Do I have to increase the amount
Yes.
because they're longer?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
This is like a Kindle Unlimited thing, page turn, same thing.
Nice.
nice. Any final thoughts, Alan?
On what, the book?
Yeah, on this discussion, the book, anything you want to share?
No, it's good. Like
Pizza.
I love Philip. Pizza's nasty. I love Philip though. Y'all know I'm kidding about Philip, but I'm excited that I got to read it, and I'm excited to do the audio. I'm not. I'm actually nervous, but but because I work for Philip, so now I'm gonna send him these clips, and all y'all think he's nice, and Philip's gonna send back these like nasty, like, "This is terrible, you piece of crap! Oh my gosh!" And I'm gonna tell everybody just like I'm doing right now, and y'all are gonna be like, "That doesn't sound like Philip," and I'll be like, "You work for him then, like you work for Philip, and have him like."
Jimmy
come to your
works for
house and-
Philip. How's it going, Jimmy?
That's why
I am
that's why
starving.
Jimmy's knees are hurt again.
I'm starving.
My back hurts. My back hurts from carrying this project. And
Didn't Philip,
No,
didn't you once say that you
excited.
turned into like a jacket or something like that when you get angry?
Yeah, it just like race. Just like race.
I would love to see Philip snap. Like just all the cred he's built with the community. Just like
Impossible.
He's gonna snap. No, it's
it
good.
would
It's
be
gonna be
amazing.
one day he's gonna I'm gonna say one thing too far about. I'm gonna be Philip, and then he's just gonna like reach through the screen. He goes, snap
Alan,
my
I'd
neck.
hate to do this, and then he just tears you to shreds, dude. It's like Dayraven. We want to see Dayraven turn bad.
Yes, the elf goes nuts and he kills me.
The tweed comes off.
Those are just beautiful closing thoughts. What about you, Merphy?
Oh no! My closing thoughts are: I like the book, and I'm excited to record the audio. That's my closing thoughts. The other stuff wasn't. Erase that.
Erase that.
We'll fix it in post. We'll fix it in post.
I like Philip without having to bully him, along with saying that. And
well, he reads manga with you, Merphy. So I mean.
And we didn't talk about Sequara near enough in this conversation.
No,
so
that's true.
I'm deeply looking forward to seeing where her story takes us as well.
She doesn't do much in this book. She has the least POVs of all of the characters. Like
she is incredibly empathetic. She's incredibly kind. She balances out a lot of the story and a lot of the emotions that happen, a lot of the darkness that comes in the story, and she connects us with the magic a lot stronger. So I love her.
I like her too. You
could also argue she's the hero of the first book in a way.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think you mean I think you mean Yerkenwald.
But you're right, Alan.
Depending on your perspective.
She plays a very small page count.
She's just in it less.
Yes,
but
and
I liked her
I'm
too.
looking forward to that increasing.
Yeah,
I really
loved her. I
POV.
thought she was feminine, and at the same time, she was very forward thinking, very dutiful. She knew how to like raise the tone in her voice to convince people of what she was after. So she was assertive. I really love a character like that. I thought she was a beautiful character.
Sorry, this is my final closing thoughts that I seriously want. I want Sequara to just be facing Yerkenwald and just being like, doing her chant or whatever. Yerkenwald just pulls out a crossbow, boom, shoots her right here, dead. Like,
and you're just being antagonistic.
No, that would be so amazing. Like one of the main characters getting shanked, just like that.
So, we want all your characters to die. That is what that is what you've learned today.
No.
I feel bad. I feel like we've picked on Philip too much now. I'm feeling regret and guilt.
No,
well, it was a ton of fun. It was a ton of fun.
I don't want Imhar to die. I like Imhar. I want him to. I want him to fail to protect everybody. So by the end, he's just like.
So that he'll be depressed.
Yes, and so he's just like he's
the shield anvil
in the street, and everybody's walking around him because he's
It was an excellent book, Philip.
It really was. It
Great
was a
job,
beautiful
Philip.
book. It was really well done.
I said all it had to be was competent, but it was a lot more than that. So
yes,
I'm very happy I read it.
I'm so glad it wasn't bad.
Yeah, dude.
That would be super awkward.
I would have got more clicks, but yeah.
Yeah,
no, it was good.
I mean, Alex still had the 1-star thumbnail regardless.
He was ready. He was ready.
He's ready to go.
Yeah, I made the thumbnail before I read the book.
In the chamber.
Just prepping.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, certainly grateful to have read it, and so grateful to have met with you all today and had this discussion. So thank you all so much for joining me here on my channel.
Joanna.
Yay. And thank you all for
thank you, Joanna.
Thank you. And wishing you all a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Like, follow Edan, Dayraven. What's your deal? He's like, now I'm gonna go join the military and these dwarves. Like, no.
Spoiler free. We're keeping it spoiler free.
I think we've just given up on spoiler free.